Hi, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm Z. Sometimes I do these little yap sessions because I've been thinking about a topic for a really long time and I just want to share it with y'all, maybe see if anyone else has the same opinions as me or shares the similar thoughts. So today, if you clicked on the title, I wanted to talk about envy. Envy is an emotion that is often put in the taboo category. It's often shamed, and yet it exists in all of us. I think the movie Inside Out illustrates this point extremely well, and so it really is a natural part of us. And yet we're told to always suppress it. It's a shameful emotion to have. Now, ever since I was young, I've definitely felt with feelings of envy and competition, and that's because parents would compare siblings to each other, friends to each other, teachers would rank students. There are indicators around us all the time at all ages that, someone out there is doing something better than you, they're prettier, more talented, harder working, luckier, all of these different criteria that someone is surpassing us in. And I find that this is especially prevalent in childhoods where celebrating small wins didn't really happen. I can see this in my own, that any incremental success and milestone was regarded as something that we should have accomplished anyways. It was, a part of our responsibilities. One sec, I'm gonna blow out this incense because it's going a little bit crazy. Okay, back to it. So I don't feel like I see the topic of envy being talked about all that often. Maybe I'm just not on the right side of social media, but I think it's important to kind of normalize this emotion that exists in all of us. So, I'll be the first to admit it. Envy is inside of me. She is a part of my control panel. She makes me want to do better. But on the other hand, sometimes when I'm celebrating other people's wins genuinely, in my heart, I feel a little twinge. And this is a sometimes. It's not all the time, but sometimes I feel a twinge of envy. And I've realized that everyone kind of has a different twinge. I guess it can be kind of synonymous to a mild trigger. Different things make people feel envy differently. So for me personally, being very candid here, the thing that I've noticed makes me have that twinge is when I realize that people are progressing faster than me. And it's not a case of hoping that others don't succeed, but rather being afraid that I don't have the time to catch up and just hoping that everything slows down around me so that I do have time to catch up. And when I really think about it, I can understand why my brain kind of defaults to that. From grades 1 to 12, everyone moves at a generally similar pace. Every grade you get to refresh, start anew, and everyone starts with a blank slate. And so maybe if you didn't get great grades one year, the next year you can try again. And then we end up going to college, and that's when I feel like there's this big drop of feeling that other people are placed higher in a hierarchy based off of the degrees that they've chosen, based off of the programs or the education. I feel like that's when the rat race really starts to get serious, and then it kind of prevails throughout our life as adults. And I think without getting this feeling of needing to be on par with everyone under control, it can be quite detrimental to the way that we live our lives and the way that we grow, because not everyone's going to move at the same pace. But if we're constantly looking out the window rather than seeing what we can do in our own lives, that's when we're really holding ourselves back. So again, recently I've been wanting to get to know Envy a little bit better. I've wanted to get to know her. And I was recently reading Rupi Kaur, I think that's how you say her name, The Sun and Her Flowers, for the very first time. I knew that the book existed, but I never picked it up before, and I saw it on my friend's bookshelf and I picked it up and I was reading it, and so many of her poems really resonated with me. And there were two poems in particular about envy that really struck me. They made me feel seen, so I wanted to share that right now. Let me pull it up. So the first one is, "How do I shake this envy when I see you doing well? Sister, how do I love myself enough to know your accomplishments are not my failures? We are not each other's competition." And the second one is, "Learning to not envy someone else's blessings is what grace looks like." And I really love those poems because I've been trying to frame envy a little bit differently in my own head recently, trying to see it as a more well-rounded emotion. But I think the negative side of it, where it gets a really bad rep, is when we discount other people's accomplishments by turning a blind eye or discounting the journey that it took for them to get there, the hardships and the patience that they had to go through. I love what she says about how learning to not envy someone else's blessings is what grace looks like. Because I think when you're able to reflect on someone else's journeys and admire everything that they've gone through, that's when you give grace to their journey and everything that they absolutely deserve. And it allows you to give grace to yourself as well, allowing yourself to not feel like you absolutely have to be on par with their blessings. Everyone has different blessings and at their own timing. So giving yourself the grace as well, I think relieves a lot of that burden. So absolutely, someone else's successes doesn't mean that you won't be successful. The only thing that will hold you back from your own success is when you allow yourself to dwell on these negative feelings for too long, to the point that you don't act on things that will actually better your own life. So I think when envy and joy in the control panels, I think when envy and joy learn to hold hands and to work together, that's when we get admiration. And admiration is an incredible tool for helping us to better ourselves, because that's why we have role models. That's why we have people that we look up to, because we admire their journeys and the hard work that they've put in and the way that they deal with life so gracefully. I think that's what admiration is for, and it's so that we can then emulate the things that we love about those that we look up to. So I just thought that it would be nice to kind of give 3 bullet points of ways to turn envy into admiration. Here we go. Number 1 is to challenge the envy. This emotion still exists in all of us. There's no saying that we can just turn off the dial, push it all the way down. There's no need to suppress it. But rather, instead of automatically jumping into a negative assumption when we're feeling envious about someone else, or also how we're a failure and we're not doing enough, instead of jumping to that conclusion, quickly change your thought direction and identify something you admire about their journey, something you admire about them, like a quality that you really like that you would like to emulate in yourself. I think when you just immediately kind of challenge the feelings of envy in a negative sense and turn it positive, that's when we're going to really start serving ourselves and our journeys, because envy is just wishful, waning thinking that won't get you anywhere. But admiration, turning that immediately to admiration, is absolutely going to empower your life and going to make you feel rejuvenated and wanting to do better. And number 2, avoid people that bring a negative voice into your life. When we have loud voices in our vicinity, it can be very difficult for us to separate our own thoughts with other people. I think a very classic example of this, especially in the Asian community, as I've grown up and seen, is that parents are always comparing children to each other, always adding a additional voice and burden of, this person's doing so much better, they're taking these classes, da 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 da. I saw this in high school. I had two friends that used to carpool together, and friend A, her mother would tell her all about the accomplishments of friend B, because friend B's mom had told her. And friend A started to feel a lot of resentment towards friend B because she felt like there was almost this suffocating feeling of never being enough, and then their friendship started to deteriorate. And I think that's really sad because it's hard when your caretaker is the one adding to all these negative self-confidence and self-assurance. I absolutely sympathize with that because I've been there. I've seen a lot of people that have been at that place. And my advice in that situation when it's your caretaker is to really try to acknowledge when it's someone else's negative voice and to folder it, package it, and put it away somewhere else. I know that's extremely difficult. Again, I very much sympathize. But when you get to a place where you get to choose the people that surround you, I think it's really important to step away from relationships that are adding negative voices, voicing your failures, voicing their own failures, hard, critical, feedback that is not conducive to being better, and also negative feelings towards other people and comparing people and tearing other people down. It definitely changes the way that you perceive your surroundings as a threat. Once we eliminate the feeling of fear, fight or flight in our environment, that we're being chased almost by life, I feel like you'll feel so much lighter. I've absolutely been there where I've surrounded myself with people that I loved, had a tendency to tear other people down in a light and joking way. And I saw that kind of seep into my own way of humor and dealing with feelings of envy, adding to that negative voice of, oh, I'm sure that, they have someone to help them, or, nepotism, or, all these things. And I have definitely been that negative voice in a friendship or, within a community, adding to that negative vibe. I've definitely been there, done that. And I was probably maybe the most miserable I had ever been, always comparing myself to other people, always comparing my journey to other people's journeys, and it just wasn't serving me. And so I think when I finally realized that it was really detrimental to my mental health, that's when I had to take a step back and go, okay, I need to change. And I also maybe need to change the people around me, who I'm spending the majority of my time with. Because once I did start consciously choosing friends and people around me that are constantly uplifting people, giving people grace and acknowledging their journey, it really lifted off a burden off of me. Because when your friends don't expect you to be perfect and don't expect you to be at the top of your game all the time, they're just going to be supporters and holding you strong and absolutely supporting your growth, and vice versa. And that is definitely the better mindset to be in. And 3, practice your own gratitude and take back the power of your life. It's kind of funny because my senior quote in high school in my yearbook was, "Live in a place of power." And I actually heard that from someone on YouTube. I don't even remember who it was anymore, but it became my mantra and it became a huge motto of my life. Take the power back in your life. Live in a place of power where, you're not scared of things. You're not scared to take responsibility over, the direction of your life and the way that you treat people and the way that you treat your surroundings, even if it's not directly, even if it's someone like a celebrity. We have the power how we talk about them and how we regard them. And I think it's important to give grace to everyone, benefit of the doubt, unless obviously if proven otherwise. But I think it's important to practice gratitude for your own life as well and take power over, all your accomplishments and celebrate them. One of my favorite activities to do is literally reminiscing. I like sitting in the bath, taking a walk, laying in bed and just reminiscing or talking about it with my partner and friends about our past and how much we've grown because, even if you might feel like you're at a low point in some aspect of your life, you've definitely grown over time and it's definitely worth celebrating. So, there is so much power in consciously observing your journey and your growth and congratulating yourself for that. For example, 4 years ago, I was almost about to graduate university and I felt so scared and I felt so lost about the trajectory of my life. What would be my full-time job? How was I going to support myself? I had no idea. And now here, 4 years later, I've worked so hard and I'm now a tattoo artist and I support myself through my art and it's a blessing every single day. I definitely do not take it for granted. And, if I think back to 4 years ago, the person that felt so lost, I think it's amazing to know that I would have been a source of inspiration for that person. So whenever I'm feeling envious of someone else, I like to stop and remind myself to be grateful for everything that I've accomplished thus far. Again, it gives us less of a reason to look around us and feel like we haven't moved anywhere, feeling stuck. Because you have moved somewhere and, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of myself. We're all growing all the time. Every day is a new day for more opportunities. And, when we combine all of these 3 points of challenging envy head on, surrounding ourselves with positive people, and then practicing gratitude and reflecting and reminiscing about our wins, I think those 3 things are going to bring us to a better place and admire life for, how beautiful that it is. If that's not too cheesy at all, because, I'm not always this positive of a person. Even in this moment, I know that there are so many more challenges of envy that I'm going to feel in the future that it never goes away. And it's not an emotion that we need to suppress and turn into an ugly monster. There are ways to turn it into a beautiful opportunity. So I think if there were to be like kind of a takeaway, it's just that every day I want to work towards becoming someone that I would admire, and 2, to admire the achievements of others and to seek inspiration. As they say, the world is your oyster, and I do believe that to be true. Something I wanted to share with you guys today. Let me know your thoughts on envy and anything else that I've said today. I hope it resonated with y'all, and I'll see you at the next Yap Sesh. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.